The American theater troupe The Civilians has created a rendering of the historical events of the 1871 Paris Commune. Through song, dance, and a large tapestry of characters, Paris Commune reflects the troupe's wish to support and develop a new theater, dealing with the most vital questions of the present. CANAPÉ joins in the revolution at the Brooklyn Academy of Music.
Imagine it happening today, the liberation of the poor. Now first you think, an end to misery, an end to exploitation, dignity for all people. As soon as that thought hops through your synapses, on its heels comes this one. It's impossible. Am I right? Of course I am. So really, you don't know this idea of liberation. What you know is a wish. Well, not so with the Paris Commune.
But in the end...
We're not at the end, are we? We are at the beginning!
Yeah, but...
This is not a story about failure.
In our play, I think the baker and the seamstress, my wife, are kind of every man and every woman. And as far as their journey through the show, they get used by other forces, by the provisional government. They're listening and trying to make sense of what President Thiers is saying. And it sounds good. It sounds like they're going to protect us. It sounds like, just be patient and let the government do its job. But then there are radicals who pull them in the other direction, which is, no, our children are starving. This government is obviously corrupt and making deals with an invading force.
I love men in uniform, I love men in uniform, I love men in uniform. The way they march, I just adore. I understand what war is for.
Citizens of Paris, this insurrection within your walls would hand over Paris to pillage and send France to her grave. Your government orders the Paris Guard to rejoin with the army of France to defend with one common accord their country and the Republic. These criminals, these communards who affect to institute a government must be delivered to justice, and the cannon taken away must be restored to the national arsenals.
Is the first revolution, certainly in European history, where women really take the front lines of the revolution, are really integral in informing the way this new society will be. Louise Michel and the Union of Women, Elizabeth Dmitrieff bringing in Karl Marx's teaching.
And finally, my character arrives in our play. She's a young Russian woman, Elizabeth Dmitrieff. Not her real name, but, well, an alias is necessary for a revolutionary.
It wasn't necessarily a conscious choice when we started that we were going to center so much of the play on Elizabeth Dmitrieff and on Louise Michel, but they're both such compelling characters.
And so here she is. Here is Louise Michel. She writes about herself in the third person a lot, so don't be confused.
I think we say it in the play. Louise Michel says it. We want the same thing for the workers. We do. We want better conditions. We want rights. We want better lives, a better quality of life for the workers. We both want the same thing, but we both see achieving that by very different means. And Elizabeth Dmitrieff is more of, you have to have force and authority in order to control these things. Otherwise, they'll just take over. And Louise Michel is coming from the point of view, well, if you have force and authority, then it's going to turn into terror. It always does.
Paris needs to act with force, leadership, and authority.
Whoa. Authority?
Yeah?
Well, isn't the whole point of the commune that it will be different? I think sure Louise Michel says too that the commune would have to, it should be prepared to fight, to defend itself, and Louise Michel, yes, she's prepared to fight and die even, but for liberation. which I think is by definition the opposite of authority, yes?
How does La Commune exist if they do not enforce their desires? How do you apply force to idealism? You know, how force and authority kind of go together. And there's a moment in the play where you see force and authority is kind of a toxic mix. It's very difficult
it's the recipe for terror.
Yeah, recipe for terror. It's very difficult to remove power from force and authority when they get together.
Oh, you are brave. If you are hungry, then you eat. You do not wish to be a slave, nor to be pulled down by defeat. Oh, this is right and manly too. But if you kill me, oh my friend, you'll be a beast caged in a zoo. Do you want to be like them? Do you understand my logic? Well, long live the Republic!
You realize a revolution is not just a piece of history, it's people. You know, it's real lives, it's real people. And I think that's what the story we're trying to tell here is that there were actually real people behind this who were really trying to do something to make their lives better. And it got crushed.
You know, I think theater is not necessarily about the gift of the voice, at least in my opinion. It's about inspiring the question in the audience.
My theater company did a project about Occupy over the course of the past year and did a lot of interviews with people involved in that. And, you know, so much of what was contentious in the Commune was the exact same questions were coming up in Occupy.
What do you do? What do you think about these questions? You know, it should inspire. It shouldn't only restore. It should also inspire. Yeah.
I think the idea that I want to have the audience leave the theater with is this recognition that it is an ongoing story. Like, there is no end point to society.
Grand finale of CANAPÉ, and just keep going and going and going and going. It's on,
Can-Can's the first dance where individuals danced as individuals. It's not really a dance for couples, it's a dance where every single person dances, and yet, in the Can-Can line, in these amazing pictures that it creates, they dance together. So it's about people dancing as individuals, but together, which is probably the best metaphor for the Commune that I can come up with.
Movies have always given us the fantasy of another life. In the tradition of film noir, it may mean getting a new self by taking someone else's life. The latest variation on this theme comes from director Éric Lartigaud's César-nominated thriller The Big Picture, starring French heartthrob Romain Duris. The film voyages from the leafy, luxurious suburbs of Paris to a remote Serbian village. Director Lartigaud tells CANAPÉ about the journey of the film.
Bonjour maître. Pourquoi tu pars pas avec Sarah? Tu peux prendre quelques jours. Va falloir aussi que tu te fasses à l'idée de reprendre la boîte, Paul.
Comment tu me traites, Sarah? Je suis pas ton ennemi. Hein.
Paul, c'est fini.
Quelqu'un? C'est ça.
Bien sûr, toi t'as réussi, pauvre type. T'es juste bon à faire du fric. C'est même plus toi qui baisse ta femme.
C'est un homme qui en fait a fait des choix comme beaucoup, qui s'est laissé un peu embarquer par la pression sociale, familiale. Il fait un métier dans lequel il ne se projette pas. Il a quitté un peu ses rêves premiers. Et à la suite de ça, sa femme, justement, qui était témoin dès le départ de leur rêve premier, lui voulait être photographe. Et il se retrouve avocat d'affaires. Bon, il s'est un peu perdu, mais il est dans le déni. Pour lui, tout va bien. Il a une jolie maison, une jolie situation. On ne peut pas le plaindre au départ. Mais en fait, le passé va le rattraper. Enfin, justement, ces petits mensonges dont on se construit vont se retourner contre lui.
Bothered by tourists.
Is photography your hobby?
I get paid for it.
Je voudrais publier une série de vos portraits.
Tu es vraiment photographe, non?
Et un bluffeur.
I've been following your work for some time. I want to offer you exhibit here over a month.
I don't want a single photo of me in the press.
L'identité, pour moi, est un sujet passionnant. Qui on est, j'adore. Puis comme j'aime observer les gens, comme j'aime les acteurs, j'aime les histoires, voilà, c'est un sujet rêvé, ouais. Et puis qui est en fait sans fin, parce qu'on peut le détourner de mille façons. Qui on est nous-mêmes, où on est, observer un caractère qui se bat contre ses propres démons, qui essaye d'avancer, qui a cette tentative de vouloir mieux vivre, d'être plus en adéquation avec lui-même. C'est passionnant à travailler, à construire, à chercher. C'est intéressant. Et Romain Duris, un acteur absolument génial là-dessus, parce que il a, je trouve, à la fois cette fragilité et ce mystère et une pure profondeur.
Grégoire Kremer.
You're French?
Yes.
Do you have vehicle documents?
Gustav Klimt and Egon Schiele were great admirers of the great Swiss artist Ferdinand Hodler, who has remained little known in the USA. A major retrospective at the Neue Galerie in New York, Ferdinand Hodler, A View to Infinity, shows clearly what the better-known artists saw of worth in their neighbor's work. Organizing curator Jill Lloyd talks to CANAPÉ about mounting a breakthrough exhibit.
Hodler is really a marvelous realist painter, and observation and realism remain very, very central to everything he does, all the way through his life. You know, he's always looking, and everything in a sense is based on the eye, on observation. But, having said that, he was very much in touch with the symbolist poets and painters at the turn of the century. His art moves in a symbolist direction, then actually fed into expressionism. So there are these veins of connection between these movements. Hodler lived a long lifespan through realism, through symbolism. But by the end of his life, which our exhibition concentrates on, he's very much evolved his own blend of all these artistic movements. Realism we would associate with looking at the world and observing exactly what's going on. Symbolism is more of an art about ideas and theories, and that was very important to him. He basically, lying behind all his work from the 1890s onwards is this theory of what he called parallelism. He felt there were laws underlying nature, geometrical laws. So, for example, he associated vertical lines with an affirmation of life. He associated horizontal lines with the absence of life, with death. And then the repetition of these lines was a way of showing this unity that underlined nature. Death is really an important theme in his work. And this is partly to do with personal experience because he lost 7 brothers and sisters to tuberculosis. He was the only surviving child of his family. And so sickness and death was something very prevalent. But what then happened with Ferdinand Hodler is that 2 of his lovers died. First of all, Augustine Dupin, who was the mother of his child, Hector, and then, even more importantly, Valentine Gaudy-Darel. And our exhibition really sees this episode of Valentine Gaudy-Darel as a turning point in Hodler's life. He almost obsessively records her illness and death. This is a moment, I think, where he then begins to reflect on his own mortality. He did self-portraits at the beginning of the 20th century, were quite an important theme for him. Then he stops doing self-portraits completely until 1912. And then as Valentine falls ill and he begins to reflect on his mortality, you get these wonderful late self-portraits by Hodler. And finally, you break through to what he called his view to infinity. And there are very lyrical paintings, elegiac paintings at the end of his life, hopeful paintings. They're about the sunrise, not the sunset. He watches the sunrise over Lake Geneva every morning. And colour completely takes over from form. Colour has always played an important role for Hodler, symbolically. But blue is the colour that he associates with everything that is transcendent and of the spirit. And his paintings end up with this marvellous composition he called View to Infinity, which is all in blue. So there is, at the end of his life, yes, a turning away from death and a search in the landscape and in the figure for something infinite, something that goes to a transcendent level. Yeah.
It is well known that the French New Wave changed film history. Less well known is how it revolutionized TV, giving a new perspective on the history of the movies. In 1965, André Labarthe and Jeanine Bazin created a television series called Filmmakers of Our Times. Through several decades, they commissioned filmmakers to make portraits of filmmakers. The result is a unique set of testimonies. CANAPÉ talks to creator André Labarthe and the head of the French National Film Archive, Mathieu Gallet, as they visit the New York Film Festival for a retrospective of the series.
What you can see in the series, that's the way it is directed is very free, very. You can imagine the same kind of program nowadays. The specialty of the series is that André Labarthe was in the intimacy of these film
directors. You said cinéaste de notre temps.
Cinéaste de notre temps.
Well,
Filmmakers of our time.
Well, why don't you say filmmakers of our time? Yeah. That begins in 1965, 1965, à Paris. Et tout a commencé avec les cahiers du cinéma, qui avaient déjà 15 ans d'existence. L'idée vient de Jeanine Bazin, André Bazin's wife. Bazin was dead in 58 and Jeanine a continué. Et avec, au Cahier du cinéma, on faisait des grands entretiens avec les grands cinéastes, Renoir, Buñuel, Hitchcock, etc. Et Jeanine a eu l'idée d'ajouter une caméra.
This is our cameraman. Come here, George. Come here. You know what we do? We would bet. Yeah. We would bet that we would shoot the best shot, you know.
Yeah. I won all the time.
He won all the time. But only because he's stronger or something. Because the camera gets heavy, as you know yourself. But here's we had a shot. We were lying on the floor like this, see? And we had the camera this way, you know? And now we're shooting through the door closes, we zoom, we pull back here like this. Now pick me up, George, over this way.
So, and we have...
He has to pick me up, right? Good. And all through the house, right? So this is what we had to do in the picture to get things, because we had no dollies, no tracks. And this is one of the best handheld operators in the world, with all due respect to you.
That's because I don't breathe for 10 minutes.
He doesn't breathe for 10 minutes. We kill him, and then we restore him back to life later. See, in holding a handheld camera, you know that you can't breathe, because if you breathe, the camera jiggers, huh? So we don't do that. We don't breathe. So we give him a shot. He's a dope addict, total dope addict. The man is hashish, and he's in a Japanese, a Chinese pot house.
Il joue. Il sait qu'il y a la caméra, il joue. Mais même s'il n'y avait pas la caméra, quand on rendait visite, il jouait aussi. Mais il jouait comme des enfants jouent. Il n'y a pas de caméra, mais ils jouent entre eux. Et chez John, c'était ça un peu l'ambiance. Il entretenait une ambiance qui est très importante pour son cinéma, parce que c'est en créant cette ambiance de travail que ces films prenaient une coloration tout à fait spéciale, une proximité très grande. Il ne séparait pas le cinéma de la vie. Et donc la vie faisait partie, le cinéma faisait partie de sa vie. On avait l'impression qu'à chaque instant, la vie pouvait faire basculer le film. Le film était mis en danger à chaque instant. À chaque instant qu'il filmait un acteur, une actrice surtout, et Gina notamment, il y avait un risque énorme dans ce qu'il était en train de faire. Il ne savait pas s'il allait y arriver. Et comme il y arrivait, ça devenait formidable.
We made it first to like it ourselves. Then hopefully somebody else will like it. You know, if they do, if they don't. If we sell it, if we don't, we've made it. Our fun is in making the picture, not in the glories that come from making the picture. We're not making it for the cahier, you know. We're making it for ourselves. We're making it not for Stanley Kramer or Metro Goldwyn Mayer or Columbia. We're making it for ourselves.
Il y a des cinéastes qu'on rencontre, et au-delà des questions qu'on veut lui poser, il y a quelque chose qui passe dans les rapports. Mais ça dépend des cinéastes. Ça n'arrive pas, par exemple, avec Hitchcock. Avec Hitchcock, on parle de cinéma. Il n'y a jamais, on a l'impression qu'il n'existe pas, qu'il n'a pas de vie privée. Il n'a que le cinéma. Il ne donne pas le spectacle de quelqu'un qui est pris entre la vie et le cinéma. On a l'impression que tout est conçu, tout est maîtrisé. Il a déplacé le lieu du danger. Au lieu que ce soit dans le filmage, comme chez John, dans le rapport à l'acteur, le danger, il est dans la conception.
When you dream very real. Very real, everything seems real in a dream. You are glad to wake up because it's so real. So you take a dream idea like moral truth. It's a nightmare. What is nightmare? Cauchemar, you see? And you make it real. The audience are looking at a nightmare. Man, crazy things happen to them. So, but it must be real.
Je suis allé voir Scorsese. Je lui ai dit, le premier jour on a commencé à tourner, c'était dans ses bureaux sur Broadway. Non, sur, je ne sais pas où, c'était à Los Angeles. Non, c'était à New York, sur Broadway, ses bureaux. Et, mélange tout. Et le premier jour on tourne, il était dans son bureau fermé. Et je tournais sa secrétaire, le petit chien, comme ça, les gens qui rentraient, qui sortaient, lui qui sortait de son bureau, qui rentrait dans un autre. Et à la fin de la journée, il me regarde, il me dit, mais vous, tu me poses pas de questions? Ben, je lui dis non. Pourquoi? Il y a une caméra, on capte le son. Si tu as quelque chose à dire, tu le dis. Le film s'est fait, je n'ai pas posé une seule question. Le lendemain, on a tourné dans sa salle de montage. À un moment donné, quand il monte, qu'il fait un raccord, chaque fois, il raconte tout un pan de l'histoire du cinéma. Il dit, ah, dans tel film, en 1930, il y a ça. Voilà, il est très cinéphile. Et à un moment donné, il parlait comme ça, et il s'est tourné vers nous, il nous a pris à témoin. Et ça marche pas?
Si, ça marche.
Bon. Il nous a pris à témoin, et à partir de là, il n'a pas arrêté.
I haven't seen these in 14 years since I directed the picture, so just give me a second. Shot number 2 is a dolly towards the old man. That's Travis's point of view. He may get up in that. Shot number 3 is a dolly in front of Travis. Travis firing. I don't know if I use it. I'll have to look at the sequence. And then this is it here. Tilt up from the guns. Tilt up from the guns. Travis walks forward, track up, and he fires. 36 frames and 48 frames. Now the gun. Now I've forgotten about this because I haven't seen the picture since I made it. But when I was listening inside, I heard the gun echo. And when the gun echoed, we cut to these 4 shots a la Frenzy. You know, where you see I believe you see the stairs, the doorway, and then you see her turn or something. I'm not quite sure. But let me go. Let's see where we are with the shoot up to that point.
Alors là, ça c'est les 2 catégories de cinéastes. Il y a ceux qui jouent ce qu'ils sont, leur propre personnage, et puis ceux qui sont naturels, encore que ce soit difficile de dire il joue, il est naturel. Par exemple chez Renoir, bien sûr qu'il joue tout le temps, mais c'est son naturel de jouer. Dans la vie, c'était pareil. On ne considère pas que filmer quelqu'un, c'est simplement enregistrer des informations. Il y a des informations, bien sûr, mais il y a aussi quelqu'un qui est là, par où passent les informations. Et cette personne-là, elle est aussi importante que ce qu'il peut dire. Même s'il mentait, si les informations étaient fausses, ça serait formidable.
Et un homme plus particulier qui s'appelle un metteur en scène. Est-ce que c'est un travailleur, un artiste? Enfin, je veux dire, qu'est-ce que c'est qu'un homme, justement, qui est un metteur en scène? Quelle est sa particularité?
Écoute, vous savez que je n'aime pas le nom d'un artiste. Qu'est-ce que c'est un artiste? C'est un homme qui travaille beaucoup, qui connaît son métier. Un grand chirurgien, c'est un artiste, dans mon opinion. Moi, je suis un homme qui travaille beaucoup, qui aime son métier. Il faut dire que j'aime beaucoup. Et ça, c'est tout.